One of the most common questions I receive is how I manage to read so much. But what people are really asking is, how can I read more? The truth is, the Stoics were all voracious readers, and their obsession with books went to the core of their philosophy. Marcus Aurelius was introduced to Epictetus through his tutor, Rusticus. It was through books that he found a deeper understanding of life. Likewise, Seneca found solace in reading while in exile, far from home, and it was through literature that he sustained himself emotionally and intellectually. For all of them, books weren't just a hobby, they were a lifeline. If you think about it, none of what I've accomplished, writing 10 books on Stoicism, speaking to audiences ranging from the NBA to special forces, would be possible without the books I've read. I first encountered the writings of Marcus Aurelius at 19, and it changed my life in a way only a truly great book can. It opened up a world of possibilities, and that's why today, I want to share with you some of the best strategies and habits for reading, not just as a part of your life, but in a way that maximizes the value you get from what you read. Epictetus famously said, "You can't learn that which you think you already know." The key is to read the books that challenge your assumptions, that push you outside your comfort zone. The best books are often the ones that force you to confront ideas that you disagree with. John Wheeler, the physicist, once said, "As our island of knowledge grows, so does the shore of our ignorance." That's what I love about books. They constantly reveal things we didn't know we didn't know. Even if I've read a dozen books on a topic, I'm always surprised by new insights. So read widely, read deeply, but crucially, never think you know it all. Keep seeking more. One of the best pieces of advice I ever received about reading came from George Raving, a legendary basketball coach and civil rights pioneer. He told me about a conversation he had with his grandmother. One day, she called him into her kitchen and asked, "Why did the slave masters hide money in books?" George didn't know the answer, and she replied, "Because they knew the slaves would never read them." What she meant was reading was, and still is, powerful. Knowledge was hidden in plain sight, but it was kept away from people who weren't allowed to read. What George took from this conversation was that reading is a moral duty. People have fought and struggled to give us access to information, so rejecting that access isn't just foolish, it's disrespectful to the sacrifices others have made. Frederick Douglass taught himself to read at the risk of death, and he recognized that knowledge was not just power, it was freedom. So I see reading as a way to honor that fight, a way to acknowledge that there are those who would have given anything to be in our position, where books are abundant and accessible. Reading is also an investment. Warren Buffett has said that the best investment he ever made was buying a copy of Benjamin Graham's The Intelligent Investor when he was 19. That $2 paperback eventually helped him amass a fortune of over $100 billion. I can say the same. The $8 I spent on Meditations by Marcus Aurelius in 2006 has returned its value many times over. Without that book, you wouldn't be reading this right now. Good readers invest in books. They don't wait for a cheaper version to come out or settle for secondhand copies. They recognize that the knowledge in those pages is worth more than any price. A great book is an investment in your future, just like Warren Buffett's initial purchase. Marcus Aurelius himself understood this. In Meditations, he writes that just as reading and writing require a master, so does life. To be a great reader, you need guidance, someone to point you to the right books, to shape your reading habits. For Eisenhower, that mentor was Fox Connor, who curated a reading list that had a profound influence on his life. Similarly, Marcus Aurelius was introduced to the works of Epictetus through Rusticus. These mentors didn't just teach them to read, they guided them in how to apply what they read to their lives. So, who is leading you in your reading? Who is shaping your understanding of the books you're engaging with? If you don't have someone in that role, find them. The Stoics also emphasized the importance of reading books that challenge you, especially those you disagree with. Seneca, in particular, encouraged us to read like a spy in enemy territory. He often quoted Epictetus, a philosopher whose views were in direct opposition to Stoicism, yet he had no hesitation in quoting him when he found value in the ideas. This is a critical lesson. Great readers engage with opposing viewpoints, not to argue for the sake of argument, but to sharpen their own understanding. In today's polarized world, we often shy away from books or ideas that don't align with our beliefs. But Seneca reminds us that the purpose of reading isn't to reaffirm what we already know, but to learn, grow, and see the world from new perspectives. It's easy to get distracted by superficial details in a book, but Seneca cautioned us against this. Whether reading fiction or nonfiction, the point is not just to recall facts or memorize details, but to extract the lessons that will help us live better lives. What can you apply from this book? How does this idea connect to your real life? That's the true purpose of reading, to bring lessons into the world and live them. So as you read, ask yourself, what is the lesson here? How can I use this to improve my life? This is what the Stoics understood so well, and it's a principle that has stood the test of time. Whether you're reading ancient texts or contemporary works, the goal should always be the same: to grow, to learn, and to apply what you've learned. Too many people are consumed with a thirst for knowledge that doesn't serve them. It's the pursuit of information for the sake of it, often shallow, irrelevant, or unnecessary. But what truly matters is not the mere act of reading, but what you're reading. Ask yourself, are the books you're diving into improving you as a person? Are they shaping you to be a better individual, a better citizen, a better parent, a better partner? This is what Epictetus meant when he said, "It's not that you read, it's what you read." Of course, there's room for enjoyable reads, books that entertain and delight. But at the heart of your reading habits should be the desire to evolve. The Stoics were masters of this. They didn't just read for the sake of filling their minds with knowledge. They read to apply wisdom to their daily lives. They understood that history and philosophy were rich with lessons that could help them live better. The key takeaway here is that without purpose in your reading, you're missing out on what matters most. It's easy to feel like just because you can read, you're well informed. But General Mattis brings up a crucial point about functional illiteracy. If you haven't read widely, you are, in essence, cutting yourself off from the wealth of knowledge others have spent centuries accumulating. If you're not learning from the insights of the past, you're wasting time learning through your own painful experiences, when you could be drawing on the wisdom of those who've gone before you. This is why the Stoics read broadly. They weren't trying to be erudite for the sake of it. They were seeking to better themselves in a world that is complex, unpredictable, and full of suffering. The risk of not reading deeply enough is profound. Mark Twain once pointed out that there's no difference between someone who can't read and someone who doesn't read. Both are illiterate in different ways. When we limit our reading to surface-level material, we restrict our understanding of the human experience. The goal is to have a broad understanding of history, philosophy, human nature, and the world, so that you can navigate life with wisdom and resilience. This is why I don't just read books, I engage with them. I mark them up, I write in the margins, I make them part of my daily journey. A great book, in my view, is one that I live with, not just a static object. Take my copy of Meditations. It's been read so many times, I've had to tape it back together. It's filled with notes, flags, and dog-eared pages. Every time I open it, it's as if I'm re-entering a dialogue with Marcus Aurelius, absorbing his wisdom anew, and applying it to my life. I don't just read to pass the time, I read to transform myself, and that's how I show respect to the author. To me, a pristine book is a sign that the reader hasn't truly engaged with it. It's a sign of detachment. But the books we truly value are those we live with, those we wear out, those we carry with us through the trials and challenges of life. However, there's also a trap in too much reading. This might sound counterintuitive, especially in a world where we are told to read more, consume more knowledge, but the Stoics, and Marcus Aurelius in particular, warned against reading endlessly without action. In Meditations, he even tells himself to put down his books and engage with the world, to take what he's learned and live it. The pursuit of wisdom must be balanced with the application of that wisdom in real, imperfect life. Reading is not an end in itself. It's a tool to live a life of virtue, to face hardship, and to act with dignity in the world. That's the challenge for all of us. To read deeply and widely, yes, but also to step into the world and live out what we've learned. We can't hide behind books, escaping into the ivory tower. We need to be in the trenches of life, putting wisdom to work, even when it's uncomfortable. In that sense, reading softens the loneliness we often feel, reminding us that our struggles, challenges, and doubts are part of the shared human experience. When you read history, philosophy, and literature, you find that you're never truly alone. Authors like Marcus Aurelius, who wrote during the Antonine Plague, were living through their own form of isolation and difficulty. But through their writings, they show us that our pain is not unique. It is part of the ongoing human journey. Ultimately, reading enriches our lives by connecting us to others and to the wisdom of the ages. It brings us into the company of those who have struggled before us, offering insights into their experiences that help us make sense of our own. So don't just read. Read with intention. Read to understand deeply, and then take that understanding into the world. Read to change your life and the lives of those around you. Reading is not a passive activity. It's a dynamic, transformative process. Reading isn't just a pastime. It's a practice that can transform your mind and shape your life. Imagine waking up in the morning and dedicating just a few moments to absorb powerful wisdom that stood the test of time. That's the power of reading. William Osler, the founder of Johns Hopkins Medical School, recognized the value of reading deeply. He encouraged his students to immerse themselves in works by Stoics, Montaigne, and even Shakespeare, particularly before bed. By slowing down your day and engaging with profound ideas, you unlock the calming, reflective power of reading. But reading isn't just about flipping pages. It's about creating a routine that works for you. Find moments in your day, whether it's during meals early, mornings, or before bed, to immerse yourself in literature. For me, reading isn't just a hobby, it's a discipline. Every lunch, I make time to read while I eat. Over the years, this habit has become second nature, and it allows me to keep learning without forcing extra time into an already busy day. My personal copy of a beloved book is stained with memories, but it's a reminder that even the smallest of moments can lead to profound growth. The key is consistency. Find your rhythm and stick with it. You don't need to set strict schedules, but you do need to make it a part of your daily life. Whether it's reading a page every day or dedicating time to dive deep into a particular subject, this small but consistent effort can have a massive impact. Think about it. What if you spent a whole year with just one book or one subject, reflecting on its insights each day? It's a strategy that cultivates long-term growth. Reading isn't just about absorbing information. It's about internalizing and organizing that knowledge. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, for example, is a collection of fragments, wisdom from many sources carefully organized by the emperor himself. It's not just about reading those fragments, it's about how you organize and apply them to your own life. That's why I keep a commonplace book, a personal collection of insights from the many books I read. Every note I take adds to a treasure trove of wisdom I can return to at any time. The goal is not just to read, but to digest, reflect, and incorporate that wisdom into your daily life. You can't just consume information passively. To truly understand it, you need to engage with it, work with it. This is a practice I try to cultivate consistently. As a Stoic, I believe that reflecting on the past can help you better understand the present. The struggles and triumphs of the Stoics, the lessons from ancient Rome, and the insights of philosophers who lived centuries ago have profound relevance today. Just think, reading about the political ambitions of figures like Caesar or examining historical events like the Catalan conspiracy gives you a deeper understanding of current political dynamics. It's an invaluable perspective in today's world. Stoicism also teaches us to embrace challenges, just as Marcus Aurelius did during the Antonine Plague. His meditations reflect not just on the physical suffering of the plague, but on the emotional and moral struggles it sparked. Today, we can draw lessons from his words to navigate our own crises, whether they're pandemics, political unrest, or personal hardship. To truly grasp the power of reading, it's not enough to skim or casually browse through a book. Great readers don't just read, they dive deep. They quit books that don't offer value, they embrace the difficult texts, and they return to books again and again. Just as I return to works like Seneca's writings, I find new insights every time. It's like revisiting an old friend. You notice things you missed, you see things from a new perspective, and you grow from the experience. But there's also an art to knowing when to put a book down. Reading shouldn't be about pushing through dense, uninteresting material just for the sake of completion. Great readers are discerning. They know when a book isn't worth their time. And when you find something that resonates with you, don't just read it once, reread it. You'll be surprised at how much more you can take from a book the second or third time around. That's the beauty of continuous learning. It never stops. Finally, books are one of the best investments you can make in your life. A single $15 book can change your entire outlook. I've found that the books that stay with me the longest aren't always the latest bestsellers. They're the ones that offer timeless wisdom and insights that keep giving back. If you're looking for recommendations on books that could profoundly impact your life, I send out a monthly email with just a few hand-picked suggestions. It's one way to curate the best of what's out there and help you grow every day. In the end, reading isn't just about filling your mind with information. It's about filling your life with wisdom, reflection, and the ability to act thoughtfully and deliberately in the world. Take the time to read, reflect, and most importantly, apply what you've learned.